but I think it's important for us to have the right context. Space transportation is a mode of transportation, and transportation involves risks. We know that. Just look at the numbers. These are from 2009, which is the last year that they have complete information available. But if you look at the number of people who have died in aviation accidents, 547 in 1 year. Most of those were general aviation. Railroad accidents, 695 deaths in the 1 year. Recreational boating, 736 deaths in 1 year. And if you add up cars, buses, trucks, motorcycles, more than 33,000 people die in 1 year in this country. Is that okay? I don't know. But space transportation is going to have accidents too, and we need to be prepared for that. We can't just say, well, we're smart, we value safety, we won't have those things. It ain't going to happen. We've already experienced tragedies in our space programs. 27 years ago, the nation was shocked when the Challenger exploded. And 10 years ago today, Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated during reentry. And it was a tragic day, but people were surprised. And maybe we shouldn't be. If you look at all of the human spaceflight programs that we've conducted, even if you lump in the very successful X-15 suborbital program, add up the numbers, and gosh, about 1% of the time, once every 100 launches, you're going to have a fatal accident. So what do we think about that? Well, Congress has provided some perspective. In the Commercial Space Launch Amendments Act of 2004, they wrote, "Space transportation is inherently risky." I think they got that right. And the future of the commercial human spaceflight industry will depend on its ability to continually improve its safety performance. That legislation was passed and signed by the President back in December of 2004 and had some interesting things in it. For the first time, it really put the administration and the Congress on the record as supporting the development of commercial human spaceflight. It also told us how we should handle the question of people flying on top of rockets on a commercial venture. At that time frame, there had been a big debate, really, in the nation. Some folks in industry were saying, government, get out of the way. We know what we're doing. Just leave us alone. We're going to go fly these operations. Other well-meaning, sincere people were saying, wait a minute, that stuff is dangerous. Are you going to allow them to do that? So that was the debate. And Congress gave the FAA some instructions. They told us, here's what we want you to do. We want you to recognize that spaceflight is inherently risky, but it's also important. It's something we as a nation want to encourage. So we want you to handle this under a system known as informed consent, which is similar to what you would face if you were undergoing a major medical operation. So these operators are going to have to thoroughly brief their prospective customers on all the things that could go wrong, all the risks, all the hazards, that they could be injured, they could even die. Now, do you still want to go? All right, sign here and have a good flight. So that's a little bit different than stepping on an airliner and expecting that you're going to safely arrive at the other end, right? Different setup. The legislation also set up a new tool for our toolbox on authorizing these operations called a launch permit that would hopefully streamline the process for research and development test flights. And they also told the FAA to go write some regulations on a very fast track, both for human spaceflight itself and for these new experimental permits. So we did that, completed the regulatory process. Those are now on the shelf, so industry knows what is expected of them. And we're going forward. So back to the question. If you look at our track record, we've got a 1% fatal accident rate in human spaceflight. Is that safe enough? My answer is absolutely not. If you look at commercial scheduled airline operations, they are about 10,000 times safer than that, with a fatal accident about once every 1 million operations. Now, will we ever get that kind of safety record for space? I don't know. It's hard, more difficult environment, more expensive. There's a lot of reasons why we might not be able to get quite that good. But that's a good target to shoot for. But the big challenge to me is, if 1% is not good enough, how do we get better? And I've heard two camps. Some folks say, well, that is so dangerous, this is so important, this is so risky, that we have to make sure that the government is right there directing everyone on, here's how to do the design, here's how to certify, here's how to conduct the operation, because no one else is smart enough, no one else is good enough. And so we have to keep the status quo. Well, I would push back on that. I think there's another way, and that is to take advantage of the experience and the knowledge, the expertise that NASA and others have gathered over these last 50 years. We want to take advantage of that, but then we want to invite in as partners American industry, free enterprise, and innovation and creativity, and get people figuring out new ways to do business. If we're going to stick with the way we've always done it, then why should we expect that our fatal accident rate is going to be different from the way we've always done it? If we want to be safer, if we want to be more reliable, if we want to be more cost effective, we're going to have to figure out new and better ways to operate. And that's why I'm so excited about NASA's Commercial Crew Program, because that's exactly what the government is doing right now. They're inviting industry to put their best ideas on the table and working with NASA in an appropriate partnership to get those improvements. And from the FAA perspective, we're right there with them, trying to be good partners to NASA and supportive of industry so that we can end up both safe and successful going forward.